This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Hello there. Welcome to episode 156 of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, as always, Kinsey Roberts. Thank you for joining me today. My guest today is Gigi Barnett. Now, she is not in the wedding industry, but sometimes I bring on a very few select people that are outside of our industry to kind of help us think outside of the box. And after hearing from Gigi, I thought this was a really classic example, and it goes perfectly with episode 155, the episode right before this one. That's episode 155, where I talked to Natalie Denice about a PR strategy and a marketing strategy. And we really focused heavily on a marketing strategy. And in today's episode with Gigi, we're really talking about how you can be your own publicist. So Gigi goes into detail and depth into ways you can reach out to news organizations, publications, blogs, things of that nature to share your story and to get publicity for your wedding business without having to hire an outside PR team or anything like that. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Gigi. She's a veteran TV news anchor who shows service-based business owners how to become their own publicist so they can get more exposure for their brand and be seen as experts in the media. She developed the Story Sell Your Brand News Insider Publicity method in 2011. During her 20-year news career, Gigi has reported for NBC and CBS News, as well as the Miami Herald and Bloomberg Businessweek magazine. She's a Navy wife and mom of two bright and boisterous kids. She has a lot of tidbits and gems and knowledge bombs to offer in this interview, and I know you're going to love it. So without further ado, let's talk to Gigi Barnett from Story Sell Your Brand about ways you can be your own publicist in the wedding industry. Gigi, welcome to the show.
Oh, Kinsey, thanks for having me. So good to be here.
It is a pleasure and an honor to have you. And I actually, I knew I was going to start laughing. I actually it took a lot to say, Gigi, welcome to the show. You guys don't know this, but I was just telling Gigi offline. I was like, I just watched He's Just Not That Into You, the movie. And the main character's name is Gigi. Yes, but the other main character guy says it in such a weird way. So then I was completely freaking out for 3 days about this interview because I was like, I am going to have to ask. Usually I'm pretty good with names, but that movie freaked me out. So Gigi, bless your heart for telling me how to say it. I appreciate it. And welcome. I'm so excited about this. Are you excited?
I am. I really am, because I'm a big believer in this.
You are. Your email, I was telling you this also too. I knew I had to stop talking and just hit record because I knew I could just go off on a tangent. But when I read Gigi's email, I was just like, yes, mm-hmm. I want to know that. I want to know that. And we all do. So don't worry, you guys. We're going to get into all of the points. Before we get there though, Gigi, I want you to tell us a little bit more about yourself. Just give us kind of the Cliff's Notes version. I read your professional bio there at the top of the episode, as I always do. But tell us who you are in your own words and what you're doing these days.
Okay, so I'm a storyteller, right? Because I'm a news person, and we're all storytellers. So if I start telling a lot of stories, Kinsey, just bring me back around, all right?
Yeah, girl, you go for it. Do it.
But so I'm a big believer in this. Sidebar: I'm a Navy mom, and I got two kids, and so that always keeps me on my toes. But this is the other piece as to why I'm a big believer in publicity. So I was working in television for 20 years, right? And I had this side gig, and I had my second child, and it was time to get out of TV because the life in television is brutal, right? Breaking news all the time. And so here I am, an at-home mom. I got these two small kids, and I was just like, I need to expand my side gig, right? Because I want to stay at home comfortably, if you know what I mean by that.
I do. Yes, I do.
And so I said, I don't really know. The ads weren't working for me. Social media, it was too much. And I was like, I'm just going to do what I know. And I know television. I know publicity. I know that it's like the back of my hand. And I started pitching podcasts and magazines and all this kind of stuff. And of course, was getting responses. Kinsey, in those early days, when I say all of my clients, all of my early clients, with the exception of one of them found me on social media. All of them came to me through my publicity pitches.
Really?
Every single one of them. And that's why it cost me nothing. It gave me visibility, right? I needed to have people see me. A lot of people see me and hear my message. And I needed them to see me as an expert, as the go-to person in my field. And so after I realized this, a few weeks later, I'm just looking at the internet. I can't remember what I was doing, but I came across this quote by Bill Gates. And the quote said, if I was down my last marketing dollar, now here's a man, right, who's multi-billionaire.
That's right.
And, and if somehow he mismanaged all that money and he got down to his one last dollar, he said, I would spend it on publicity. And I was like, oh my gosh, up and down my spine, chills, because I was like, that's exactly what I did. That's what I did. I became more visible. And I had those people see me as an expert. And that's what led to those early clients who really kind of gave me the seed money to expand my business. And so that's when I've always known on the in the news insider piece, okay, this works, right? I wouldn't be a TV news anchor if I didn't know that I can communicate with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But as a business owner, it was an early day game changer for me that I was putting into play. And so now that it's like this doubling down on really believing how this works and why it works and what it does for a business.
And you are an advocate for radio, for TV, both live and tapes. You're an advocate for podcasts, clearly. Mm. How do you, I guess we'll probably talk about this later, but my main question is how for you and for your side hustle, how did you determine what would be the best at first, or did you just go after all of it?
No, that's a good question, because that's actually part of the planning piece. Yeah. When you start to get busy on this, that's one of the questions that you really need to answer and answer well. And so what you do is you play to your strengths, right? My strength is speaking my message. I had 20 years of being in front of a camera, talking to a mass audience. So I'm a strong writer too. But if I'm going to tell you something, Kinsey, I'm much more likely to pick up the phone and tell you. I'm much more likely to speak my message. And so that's my strength. And so I said, okay, my strength is I love to talk to people, and I'm going to do podcasts because I think at that point, just for me, after doing 20 years of TV, I was like, okay, I don't want to be in a studio.
Right.
Right. I was like, I don't want to be in a studio. And then the podcast piece was, I was able to do it from my home office in the comfort of, Slacks and just, being me in that regard. And so I was like, this here is the sweet spot. This is where I'm going to go first. And it worked. That's what worked for me. So you always look at your strengths. If I'm good at speaking, if I'm good at speaking my message, that's what I'm going to do. Now, that does not mean that later on you add on, magazines or you add on publications. For instance, right now I have a client and she's really great at speaking her message. She was just on a local CBS station, but we pitch magazines. And we pitched magazines. And so she just got into a huge magazine in her area. And it was just an interview that she did with, again, speaking her message that she did with the reporter. So now she's getting she's hitting on all of these mediums, within the communications field. So you start where you're the strongest, and then you just add on. You don't have to write. If you're good at writing, I would say, yeah, you can, pitch some blogs and that kinds of stuff. But the best thing is to hone your skills, right? I think it was Warren Buffett, and there was an article recently, and it said the one way to boost your worth by 50%, and this is what he said, those are his numbers, by 50%, is to hone your communication skills, written and verbal. So, and the great thing is we do that at Story Sell Your Brand. I give every single one of my clients in-depth media coaching, media training, so that you're not afraid of speaking to people. You're not afraid of looking at a camera. Those sweaty palms, the deer in headlights look, that's all gone. So yes, but you're going to start with, where am I the strongest? Answer that question first.
What are some ways we can find our strengths if we are thinking, for me, for instance, I do feel like speaking to someone, I feel very comfortable, especially on podcast interviews, of course. But, I also kind of feel strong in writing. How can we all determine really where our strengths lie when it comes to PR?
What do you do the most? What are you doing the most?
Okay.
And that's it. You are doing podcasts the most.
That's right.
So this is the easiest transition for you. I'm a strong writer because to speak your message in television, it's all scripted. People think, okay, it's a lot of ad-libbing. It's not. Everything on television that you see is scripted because it's all timed down to the minute.
Oh, interesting.
It is, yeah. And so everything that you're seeing and hearing, it's all been written down before. So you have to be a strong writer when you are a journalist, a television journalist. So that's why I'm strong in that area. But what I do the most is speaking. And the other thing too is, where's that joy? What's that show? Oh my gosh, Marie Kondo, where she's helping people clean their houses.
Yes.
And she's like, you're touching on this old shirt and it's like, oh, the joy is still there. So I'm going to keep it, So it's that thing is that if it feels like this shirt is tailor-made for me and I enjoy wearing it, then that's where you go. If speaking is tailor-made for me and I enjoy doing it, that's where you go. If writing is my strong suit and I do it all the time and I love it, that's the path that we go into. We follow the joy, as she says. So that's what I tell people. Where is the joy and what are you doing a lot of?
I like that a lot. Okay, so step one, find the joy. See what we did there? You're welcome, Marie Kondo, for that shout out.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. But what are you doing the most and what do you love? And follow that path, because we can always add on later.
Right.
What do we do next when we are becoming our own PR specialists?
Yeah. So people say to me all the time, Gigi, I've never been on before. And I say, okay. And they say, yeah, but I don't know what to say. And I say, okay. And so the next question is, well, are they going to see me as an expert? And I'm like, absolutely. You have expert experience. So the first thing that you're going to know is that you can get the attention of a producer or an editor and you can cold pitch them. That's all of my pitches are cold pitches. You can cold pitch them. The only one thing that you need is a strong story idea. And the story idea is the content, right? It's the content that producer, that editor is really looking for to add to their magazine, their television show, their podcast. So once you have that content, once you have that story idea, then you can pitch it. And what you have to really do is part of that planning phase that we talked about is you've got to nail down your strong suit. You have to nail down, where are my story ideas? Where am I finding them in my business? The story ideas that these producers and editors really want, the different story ideas that will make them stop doing their inbox scroll and pay attention to my pitch. So the next step is to find those story ideas and really craft them.
I'm glad you're saying this. This feels hard for me, even though I enjoy, of course, I have a podcast. I enjoy hearing other women's stories. I want to talk to them. It brings me so much joy and passion. I am also completely stuck on my own personal story. I just, how do you pull that out of yourself? Are there some activities we can do?
Yeah. So there's, in television, without getting too convoluted, and in print and in the media, they have what are called 7 news elements. Oh. And these news elements are it's what's timely, what's happening that's timely, what's current, what are some things that are bizarre, what are some things that you've seen that will impact a lot of people. Here's the thing: is there a celebrity already involved to an event? So there's 7 news elements, and you can go and Google them all day and look at them all day. But I like to tell people, just look at 2 things in your business. Number one, what are the trends that you're seeing? Are you seeing people, coming to you and asking for specific things that, is like it's the rage now? Are you seeing that? And is there a twist or a tie onto it that would make it interesting? What are the trends that you're seeing? The second thing is what's the timing? So here we are at the time of this recording. We are going into the fall months, right?
Yes.
Think of what's coming up. We've got school just started, fall's coming, there's Halloween. Ooh, I love Halloween, right?
Me too.
After that, Thanksgiving, and the weather, depending on where you are, may start to get cooler, right? There's Thanksgiving, and then there's what comes next, Christmas and Hanukkah and all those wonderful holidays, right? And then you got the New Year's. All of those things, that time is going to lend itself to great story ideas that you put the trends and the times together. I like to call it the TNT effect, and you can craft and create a very interesting story idea.
And that's, thinking of what's happening seasonally, I'm already kind of like buzzing with a few ideas, but that helps me. I automatically kind of put myself in that place as you were saying that, like Halloween's coming, school just started, then the weather's going to get cooler. You really made me feel like, okay, I'm there. How does that relate to stories that I can tell?
Right.
That's interesting.
So then, right. Yeah. So yeah, once you take that and you put those together, it's almost, and you're right. It starts popping out at you and you're just like, oh my gosh. The other thing I tell people to do is look at the, let's say you want to be in a magazine. Give me a magazine, one of your favorites.
Oh, one of my favorites. Gosh, I don't know. I do love Town and Country.
Okay. Oh my gosh, what a great magazine, right? Oh, like on every shot.
It's just so visually appealing.
Yeah. Look at some of the story ideas they've got in there. Look at the headlines, right? Can take your story ideas and then tweak it in a way to fit a story idea that would be similar to what what you want to pitch from that magazine. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. So we're talking about reading their stories, looking at the headlines, what kind of ads do they have, and then kind of crafting stories that would match potentially the content they're looking for.
Exactly. So, okay, the trends and the timing that I have in my business, can I take those trends and timing and put it up against this story idea that I see, or this article that I see in their magazine? Can I make the words fit the exact same way? If you can do that, then it tells you also too that that's probably one of the places that you should be pitching. But you can get ideas on stories that particular magazine is going to want to see from you.
That's such an easy way to do it. I love this. Oh, I knew this interview was going to be amazing. Okay, so someone listening right now, they might be thinking to themselves, I have not been in business for very long, or maybe I have been in business for a decent amount of time. However, I've never approached PR, and they may not feel, quote, qualified. Maybe they don't have enough clients. I'm not worthy of PR, or I haven't done huge profile 6- and 7-figure weddings, or what have you. What do you say to those people?
You don't need it.
That's right.
The one thing that you need, as I mentioned, is the story idea. Because an editor or a producer, they're not going to be saying, okay, well, who are you? What's your background? I got to do a full background check on you before what they want is the story idea. The first thing that a reporter does in the morning when they wake up, they get out of the bed, they might have a sip of coffee, after stretching. The first thing they ask is, what story am I doing today? And if you are that person and you're sending them great story ideas that's targeted for their viewers, for their readers, for their listeners, you're sending those story ideas, and those viewers and listeners and readers are your people too, they're going to want to hear from you quite often. And that's how you begin, cultivating a relationship with them, a long-term, over the course of years relationship. So the first thing they want to see is, okay, first, what's the story idea? Is it good? Will it work for my audience? And then they're going to ask, okay, so who are you? And then if you say, I'm a wedding planner, I'm a business owner, I'm, a dentist, a doctor, whoever you are, then they're going to want to know who you are. But it doesn't, if you're giving them something solid and concrete, and it's working for them, they're not going to give you the third degree. And here's the other thing too I like to say, is that the little experience that you do have, guess what that is? Experience. That's experience. Right. And so that is you working as you're working as an expert. If you're, planning weddings, if you're building a business, if you have a brand, if you have some experience. So I tell people, don't worry about that. What we need to do is to have the story idea that needs to function and that needs to flow well.
Okay. And you are, we can all tell now, and I knew this, of course, but you're very passionate about us becoming our own publicist, because truly is in the wedding industry, the best kind of publicity we can get is from our own local media, because we are all local businesses. Even if you travel, everybody listening, even if you do out of town weddings, out of state elopements, all the things, still local press is the best press for us. So what are some steps we can take to get our own publicity, become our own PR experts? What can we do?
I'm just going to expand on that a little bit more. And that's this, to say, because local television, local radio, local magazines, newspaper, so that's where you want to start, because you need to dominate. That's where all your couples are. That's where all of your clients are, right? They're going to be locally. If you're in Chicago, you're not competing with a business owner in Miami. You're just not. So where you are going to start in terms of that local coverage, as I mentioned, the planning piece. It depends on what your situation is in terms of your strong suits. But getting in front of, how do I want to say this? I want to say, like, getting in front of the media locally, it's going to do two things. It's going to give you practice doing that, right? And it's going to give you proof that you have done it. And so the practice, if you want more national coverage, those national editors and producers, they're looking for people who have been on already. They want to see that you've had some media training. They want to see that you're not going to come on a national show and bumble and stumble and fumble, right? That would be very embarrassing to you, but also to them as well. So you're going to get practice locally, and you're going to get it, and it is going to be proof for you that you are the expert that you say you are. And so when you're starting locally, you're starting just as if it's national, and the other piece about local is, think about it. So I keep using Miami. I'm from Miami, and TV stations in Miami, you have just four. In any city, you're going to have a maximum of four. You're going to have NBC, CBS, ABC, and of course, Fox. Some places they will have another one, which will be the CW station. But for the most part, just four stations. That is four producers that you need to get to know. How easy is that? How easy is it pitching?
My head's kind of exploding. I'm like, wow, there really is only four.
Right. There's only four. So if you need to reach out to four producers, you can do that in one day, right? You can do that in 1 week's time. If it's just a matter of finding out where they are. Think about the wedding magazines in your town. How many are there? I mean, it of course it varies from town to town, but city to city. But let's just call it a handful. That's a handful of editors that you need to know. You can reach out to them. And the best part of it is that all of these editors and all these producers, their information on getting in contact with them is hidden in plain sight. They say to you all the time, hey, if you have a great story idea, send it to us. If you have a great story idea, if you have a feature you'd like to see in this magazine, send it to us. So they're practically begging you for content. So it's only four producers that you need to know, maybe 2 or 3 radio folks, and then a handful of magazine people. That's not a lot. And you can virtually dominate the local media just by doing that. And when you do, people see you as that local celebrity. And what does that do to your rates? It causes you to boost your rates. What does that do to your lead generation? It causes you to get more of that. I always tell people media is not lead generation. It's not. It's for visibility, more people seeing you. And it's for authority, that credibility piece, that third party credibility, which in turn is people seeing you more as a celebrity. And that's what causes you to get them to want to work with you. And then you boost your rates.
So it's all interconnected. It makes so much sense.
It is.
What are those? Okay, you have a little tip for us where we can do our own PR and see results with 30-minute a day action steps. I love that. What is that?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to those 4 producers, right?
Yeah.
You don't. So here's
I'm
the first
freaking
thing.
out that there's only 4. I'm like, gosh, Kizzy, TV feels so vast. And I'm just like, why did you think of this sooner? You're dumb.
It's not. They want you to think that it is. And the reason why it feels feels that way is because we've got, cable and that kinds of stuff. And so you got all these other shows, but it's not. Locally, it's not. So let's just take one of those producers. I'm just off the top of my head. I'm just going to say, let's take a producer at NBC.
Okay.
Right. This is, I like to do this sometimes. So I'll have a few story ideas that I've crafted, and they're similar but different, right? It's all of the expertise that I can bring to bear, the things that I feel comfortable talking about, speaking about to an audience. Well, I'll take one story idea and I'll send it to the producer at ABC one day, right? And here's what you just want to find out where they are. And you can go on their website and look up their phone number, and you can call their news desk, or you can find out where they are but through their social media channels. And you send that pitch to the ABC station, to the producer at ABC, maybe for the morning show. Let's call it that, because their morning show is a little more light. They'll be talking about weddings. Hey, what are the trends coming up for this fall for weddings? We've got, Gigi Barnett here. She's going to explain to that in just a minute when we come back, right? We've heard that a million times before, right? So we're going to send this to that morning show producer at ABC. And then the second story that's one day. The second story that I've crafted or I've created, I'm going to reach out to the producer, the maybe weekend morning producer at CBS, because my local CBS, because their station that's when they have their lighter pieces on the weekend. I'll send it to the CBS station producer on the next day. Guess what I'm going to do for the next 2 days?
You're going to do that to the other 2 producers?
Uh-huh. I'm going to hit Fox and I'm going to hit NBC. And by the end of that week, I have just contacted those 4 producers. So in a week's time, you can have all of your television PR pitched. Yeah, that's my done. Get her done.
And are you pitching them the same story?
So it's not going to be the same story. You're going to tweak it a little bit, right? Because they do like to see difference. And you don't want to go to the ABC station. The only time, I'll say this way, sometimes you'll see, like actors and stuff. They've got a movie coming out and you'll see them one morning on, this morning show and the next morning on another breakfast morning show. They do that because contractually they have to do that, right? And it's the same movie. But for you to show versatility, to show that, you're not going to be pitching the same play. And here's the other thing, too, is some of those stations, they have a different format. One of them might be much more laid back and fun and easygoing. So you're going to send them that type of story. Mm-hmm. The other station, they want a little more meat. They want a little more concrete. What are the numbers behind this, your wedding business? What are the numbers in terms of, more couples tying the knot in this way as opposed to that way? So it just depends on which station you're sending it to. And you are going to tweak those pitches. They're going to be a slightly different. Same topic in terms of what you can speak on, right? If you're a wedding planner, you're not going to start talking about like food and travel. You're not going to be doing that, but because you're talking about weddings, but you're going to tweak it in terms of what that station really wants in its content.
How do we determine how do we determine the style of the station? Is that something that's data we need to gather by, of course, doing our due diligence and research?
Yeah. Let me tell you how to do it real fast.
Okay.
DVR. What you do is you wake up in the morning and you've got 4 stations and you DVR all of them. You don't sit there and watch 8 hours of an hour's long shows. You're just going to DVR the shows, the morning show. Let's stick with the morning show. So let's say that they have the lighter pieces that come on in the morning, right? Which most TV stations do. You're going to just watch those segments that they have, where the wedding planner would hit, or where wedding business owner would hit, which would be probably at the end of the show. It's not going to be at the beginning of the show, because the beginning is where they're going to have a lot of hard news. And you're just going to watch those 3-minute interviews, 4-minute interviews, which is a lot of time, by the way, for an interview. 3 to 4 minutes is really good time. Here's another way that you want to do this. You're going to DVR them and just pay attention to what kind of questions they're asking. Are they doing the fun types of, here's the latest gown that's out this season? Are they doing, all the color that you should have in your wedding this year? Are they doing that? Or are they asking more tougher questions? Another good way to do is go on their website. They post all those up every single morning, and you can just see those on demand. Look at those segments that they have from their morning show and pay attention to the questions. What are the anchors doing? What are the hosts doing as they interact with this show, with this guest? What's the vibe like? Those are all the things you want to pay attention. And that'll give you a really good picture, a really good idea of what your pitch should look like, and also what to expect once you get on that show. How you can, what your demeanor, how loose your demeanor can be when you get on that show.
And are these the same tips we should use for, local radio, local newspaper, local magazines? How do we kind of divest? Are we still using, similar stories? What's our hook? But how do we divest that energy and pitch those other local areas? And what should we be doing to be successful when it comes to those types of outlets?
So here's the thing, and this is what I always like to tell my clients. I have a group program coming up, and I'll tell folks about that a little bit later on. But in this group program, these are all the things that you're really going to be getting and learning and knowing and putting into practice. But so where you need to start is that television is a visual medium. You have to know what all the mediums what they want, so the kind of content. You have to also know how they communicate to their viewers, their listeners, their readers. So television is the only one that is visual, right? You need to have props. You need to come looking a certain way. You need to, because people are going to see everything, right? So you need to include those in your pitches. Podcasts and radio is going to be the same, right? You need to just, and it will show you when you go onto a podcast page, you'll see, look at some of the guests that have been on that show before. Listen to the interviews. Everything that you need to know in terms of the questions that you should have posed to you, the way you should answer those questions, it's all there. And then finally, magazines, a little bit different. And that's because you're going to be talking to a reporter. So it's really just like having a conversation from the comfort of your home or wherever it is that you may be. They might ask you for some background information, but you can do it all over the phone. You can email them quotes. So it's going to be a little bit different. So you just have to know what the medium requires, is what I like to say. What does this medium require from me as a person who's a guest and who's going to be pitching, and what it wants to give to its audience, to its viewers, to its readers.
And the publication style is a little different when it comes to radio versus TV versus magazine. For TV, in my mind, that feels very in the moment. You are very on the morning show that day, whereas magazine, not as depending, of course, on the magazine, you might have a local publication that they just churn out very easily, but magazine is more of the long game in general terms. They know what they're publishing each quarter, and sometimes the pitch has to come, months in advance.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can we put that in our schedule?
Right. Say that again.
How can we, I asked, how can we kind of make that work with our pitching schedule? But I guess more of my question is, how can we plan for those things? Like if there's a few magazines we want to be in, what are the steps that we should take to make sure that we're pitching stories that are going to be good, 4 months from now?
Yeah, it's the same. So the 4 months piece is, look at the timing. Okay, so let's go back to our timing, right? Where we were talking about what's coming up. So in 3 or so months, 2 or 3 months, we're going to be in December. What's coming up? Oh my gosh, we're waiting for the holiday. We're getting our wreaths out. We're getting red and green out. And those are the wedding colors that you're going to see. It's going to be this winter wonderland, right? Yeah. So so you're, and you know what? Say in your pitch, hey, I know you are getting ready for the winter wonderland weddings. So I'm sending this great story idea to you because here's a trend that I see that's upcoming or coming up for that season. I think your audience, your readers would really like to know about this. I think couples would really be interested in knowing about this. So you're doing them a favor, right? You're doing them a favor of giving them content that they want to hear about months down the line. And that's them filling up their roster. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you do need to know that. Don't worry about so much the timing schedule, in that you have the story idea. It always flows back to the story. Always comes back to the story. So just make sure that your story idea fits the timing for a magazine. Make sure that. So I'll give you an example. Well, one of my clients, she was just featured in the Washingtonian magazine.
Yeah.
She was just featured in that. And last week or so, she was on CBS. And then 2 weeks before that, she was on ABC. And the same time that I sent the pitches with her to ABC and CBS, we sent it to the Washingtonian magazine.
Oh.
Same time. Yeah. And here's the other thing, too, you got to keep in mind is that it's not always, especially with our online culture nowadays, it's not always going to be in the magazine itself. So magazines, and I mean the physical turn the page magazine, magazines now, they're online. And you can actually get something faster and quicker on their online editions, on their online versions.
That's right.
So you can pitch to their editor and say, hey, here's a great story idea. And if you might even want to consider it, you can say this, you might even want to consider it for your online version. That's exactly what happened to this client of mine. She was in the Washingtonian, and they said to her, our issue has already been for this month. It's already gone, but we'd love to feature you in our online section, our online publication. Can we do that? And she was like, absolutely, you can do that. So think of it in that terms. It's no longer everything's virtual, everything's digital nowadays. So it's no longer that you have to pitch the magazine based on when that magazine comes out, in 2 or 3 months. Think about their online publications as well.
Well, and if you mention that in your pitch, they're going to, I would imagine that the producer, whoever is reading your pitch, they'll feel like, gosh, Kinsey or Gigi, they really know what they're talking about. They understand we do have a print publication. They also understand we have an online space for this content. They are invested in our publication. They get it.
Right. Right. And nowadays, with some publications, it is more prestigious to be in the hard magazine.
Sure.
It is more. But you know what? Nowadays, you can say, hey, I was featured in that magazine, too. And it's online, and you have a link that you can send to potential clients, potential customers, so that they can see you in that publication, that they can see the logo on your magazine, on your website of that magazine. So it's to me, I feel like it's comparable. It's just as good, if not better, to be featured in their online publication.
I agree. Well, and to be honest, you guys, if I'm ever featured in Vogue Online, I'm definitely going to say just Vogue. I'm not going to say Vogue, their online publication.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm just never going to make that distinction.
And you have no reason to, right? And there's no reason to do it.
It's all the same. It's the same company. What else what are some other tips that we have here? Well, you know what is this a good time? Because I'm really excited about this and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. Is this a good time to kind of go back to TV? Because I think people are interested in this and I think it's also overlooked. We're all like, let's get on podcast interviews. Let's, do Instagram stories, but people are still watching TV. We still have all these local stations. Like, hello.
They are.
Is this a good time to decide if we're going to fly or flop?
That's right. So that's one of the biggest objections that I have people tell me is they'll say, Gigi, no, I'm not doing TV. No. And I say, well, why not? No, because people are going to notice this mole on the side of my face that I've had since I was 3. It's just like, no, they're not. But let me tell you, they get afraid. Well, I'm gonna deer in headlights. I'm not gonna know what to say. I'm gonna be nervous. So I always do with them what I'm going to do with you now, and it's called the bathroom test. And this is, to me, the one way that I like to tell and show people that you will fly on a TV interview. You're not going to flop. So, Kinsey, you're going to do this with me, right?
Oh, I'm definitely going to do this with you.
Okay, so
I'm
here's
nervous.
a bathroom.
Just kidding. I'm excited.
So here's a bathroom test. Let's say you say to me, Gigi, let's have lunch together. And I go, okay, great. And I say, you say, come to my house. I'll create a beautiful lunch spread for you, and we'll just spend a little time together, catching up on old times. I'm there. So I drive your house. I hand you some flowers and a gift or whatever it is that I've got, and I say, oh, Kinsey. I said the drive, it was a little bit long and I misjudged. I go, can I use your powder room? Do you mind if I use your powder room? And you say to me, I hope you'll say yes. And I say, okay, thank you. So I say to you, where is it? What do you say to me?
It's down the hall, first door on your right.
Boom. It's down the hall, first door on my right. Do you see how easy that was?
Yeah, so easy.
It's very easy, right? Because number one, you know your house. You know where everything is in that house. You know how to get to everything. You know any question that I'm going to ask you about that house, you can more than likely answer. If you cannot, I'm going to say, Kinsey, where are we? Is this your house? Right? So you have to, and so you just have to think of it like that. Anything that anyone on television in the moment, because it is an immediate right now, happening right now, medium, platform, anything that they can ask you about your business and about your expertise, you're not going to flop because you should know it like the back of your hand. You should know it like your house. So just as you can direct me to a powder room in your house, you can direct me and tell me about your business or what's happening in weddings nowadays or what's happening in the wedding business industry. You should be able to know those things. Here's a second reason that I know that you're not going to flop is that many times when you send a pitch to a producer for television or radio, doesn't matter, you send along with them talking points or questions that they can ask you. Guess who crafts these questions? You do.
We do.
So if you're writing questions that you don't know the answer to, I'm going to tell you, pump the brakes on that. Let's send them questions that you know the answers to and that you can answer very well. So that's how I know that you're never going to flop in a television interview. You know your business like the back of your hand, and you got a cheat sheet. You have already sent them the questions.
Ugh. Yes, so good. And you know what this did, doing the house example, it brought an immediate sense of confidence. And it also gut checks us to make sure that we are only speaking about topics that we truly know inside and out very well, which brings that element of genuineness, authenticity, and truth to what we're saying. And so it's that check to say, gosh, I couldn't tell you just like the bathroom, where the bathroom is. Maybe I shouldn't be talking on this. Maybe I do need a little more experience with this certain topic. What's another topic that I feel more comfortable with? So there's so many valuable things about doing a simple test like that.
Yeah, you know it. You're the expert at it. So you can go and you can walk into a brightly lit studio with confidence, knowing why you're there and what you're going to be talking about.
Do producers and people in television, and I actually genuinely don't know the answer to this. Do they care what you look like as long as the story's good? You know what I mean? Like, if I have a great story, but, I'm concerned about this baby tooth that I have, are they going to be like, yeah, no, thank you?
No, they don't. They just care that you look decent. They don't care what you look like.
I mean, they're not like, yeah, obviously take a shower that day, you guys. But
right, obviously take a shower,
yes.
But they don't care what you look like. They don't. You want to know why they don't care what you look like? Because that's real. They want real TV. They're not looking for models. They're not looking for, they do like megastars, but you don't have to be, there's some beautiful person. You don't. You just have to be real. You just have to be authentic. And I think it took me a long time, Kinsey, to learn that the hardest thing to be on television, and you're talking to somebody who's been on television for 20 years, the hardest thing to be is yourself. But man, when you get to that place that you're easy with that and you can flow and function in that and you're comfortable and authentic just being you, do you know how much you shine in those situations? People pay attention. Oprah, oh my gosh, Oprah, right?
Oh, I love her.
When you are just yourself and you're talking from a place of expertise and authenticity, and you got that message together, oh my, you can change the world. You can change the world. I'm getting on my soapbox here. I'm going to step down in a minute, but that's probably the first thing. There is some mindset to this. I'm not a mindset coach. I'm a publicity consultant, but there is some mindset that you have to do beforehand. And part of that is saying my message is important. People do want to hear from me. They don't care about this mole on the side of on my face, as long as I'm speaking to them and I'm showing them what are the best ways to plan your wedding. Do you know how much you can put a couple at ease when you just show them, you've got this. Let me show you what to do. Let me show you where to go. That's how you get your clients. And when you are being just yourself, it is magic. It's magic.
I couldn't agree more. Where are the places we can go? So we've been talking a lot. Of course, we're telling people, pitch the producer or whoever the editor is, or et cetera, et cetera. But what's from pragmatically speaking, how do we find those people?
Yeah, easy. They're hiding right underneath your nose. There's several things to do it. This is what I also show my clients. We have a portion of my group program. It's called to Get the Intel, because I like to think of myself as a news insider tour guide. And I'm showing you how to get the intel, the intelligence on all these people. And so one of the things, here's an easy way. Let's go back to TV because I know it so well. You might see a show, right, that you want to get on. Let's go back to the morning show. And sure. The host. The host's name is Mary Smith. I'm just using that. And you watch her every morning and you like Mary. You're like, gosh, you know what? Maybe I should reach out to Mary. There are some PR gurus who say, nope, don't ever contact Mary. Don't ever do it. I say to that, poppycock. I say to that, that's a bunch of bull. What you should do is get online. Find Mary's contact information. It should be on the station's website. It's easy to find. She's telling you right there, hey, if you have a story idea on her bio page, if you have a story idea, send it my way. Click on the link that leads to her email address and send her your pitch. As a news anchor myself and a host myself, I can't tell you how many times over the years I've had people send me story ideas and I would read it and I would go, I want this on my show for two reasons. Number one, it's my show. Right. I want the best content on that show. I want to give my audience something that's going to have them tuning into me every morning, not the competition. So if I've got great content, I want that. The second piece is that they are decision makers. The show hosts, producers are really close to their producers. They can tell their producer, we need to have this on the show. They're journalists, too. Those show hosts, those anchors are journalists and reporters as well. So I've received over the years many pitches from people and I would say, yep, I want you on my show. And all I would do is forward it to my producer and say, let's get this person on. 2 weeks later, they were on. They have that ability. They have that ability to, and that much control over the show and the content to get what they'd like to see on there. So reach out to them. Make that show host your advocate. Make them your news manager that you're going to pitch, and keep in contact with them over the months, over the years, and say, hey, Mary, I got another story idea. You want it? And if she liked the last one, you know what she's going to say? Absolutely.
Right. And so even if we don't have story ideas all the time, is it a good idea to keep up with our PR contacts just to say, hey, checking in, how are you doing? To keep kind of like that fire lit so they remember who we are?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, I'm trying to, oh my gosh, but you know what? I was going to use an example, but he was a school board president. So he was really good at this. I worked years ago at a TV station, and the school board president, very small town in our area. This man was a publicity. He had mastered publicity.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I guess that's why he was the president of the school board.
That's right.
But yeah, he would send story ideas every now and again. They would be great story ideas. He'd keep in contact. And it was a small town. They weren't getting as much coverage as some of the bigger cities, and it worked. We would go out and cover the story, and it would be on the air, and he would get publicity, constant publicity, because he was reaching out, and you knew that he always had a great story idea. So it's perfectly okay. Here's what I will say: do not do though. Don't start off with trying to massage cultivate a relationship first in that regard, because that. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying, it's the wrong way to do it. But what I am saying is that you're going to waste a lot of time doing that. Because as I mentioned earlier, the number one thing that a reporter wants to know is, hey, what are the story ideas that I'm covering? And if you can come with that beautiful gift in your hand and say, hey, here's a great story idea, now you can keep that relationship going. It will blossom. But if you're just reaching out to them and say, hey, what's your favorite ice cream? Or, hey, I saw your story today, or I thought it was really good, or, hey, whatever it is that you want to say to them, what's the name of your dog? That's all great. But if it's going to be personal, just keep it personal. Don't do that. And then, months later say, can I have your producer's number? Can I have your producer's name? Because that doesn't look good to me ever. Come with the story idea. Come with the gift in hand.
Okay. Yeah. Bring something to the table.
Bring something to the table.
Smart. Yeah. So smart. What other, I feel like we've covered so much ground in this interview. This has been amazing. Do you have any other tips for us as we kind of wrap it up here?
Yeah. Back to the mindset piece. And that is this. The one place that I see people, when they don't get coverage, it's because they're not pitching. And I in my early days, I thought, okay, they're afraid that they're going to hear crickets, and then they're not going to get producers contacting them back. It's the opposite. People are afraid of success in this area because they think, oh, what if I get out there and, it gets too big and I can't control it. And I think, well, you'll get some help. You'll get some people to, you'll hire more staff. But what if they come back to me all the time and they want story ideas and I don't have them? Don't worry. You can think through that. Don't worry. Those story ideas will come to you. Don't worry about that. People are afraid of success in this area because once you start getting publicity, you're known. People know your name. People know who you are and what you do, and they want to work with you. And so I tell people, listen, you have to hit send. You have to send your pitches, because if you don't, you're going to get the same effect of sending a really bad pitch, and that's going to be crickets. No action at all is worse than action taken in the wrong way, than bad action, I guess, if you want to call it that. So not taking action because you fear success is never going to help you. And that's part of what I do in my programs with my clients is to give you that confidence, to give you that esteem, to say, let's do it. It's time. Let's do it.
I like that a lot. It's so true. I'm sure we could have a whole podcast episode on, you know what I mean, on mindset and training people to, don't be afraid for what hasn't happened yet. But that's so good. I feel like this is such a great place to end. Gigi, this has been so much fun, and I have learned a ton. I took tons of notes. I was like, no, listen. Tell us where everyone can find you. And I'd love more details about the program you've mentioned a few times, because I feel like it could be a perfect fit for somebody listening.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this. So go to Story Sell Your Brand. And we had so much success, and we have had so much success with our one-on-one clients. I don't know if you know this, but I used to be an adjunct professor. And so I said, I'm going to do a group program, because people need to know, how to do this. And there's just one me, but so I said, let's do a group program, because you can, being in a group with people together, working together and crafting these pitches and then hitting send together and really, getting the results. I said that was going to be powerful. So we are, in just a few weeks, we're launching our group experience program. It's called the Group Experience, and I call it the Newsroom. And the reason why I call it the Newsroom is because I feel like if any of your stories can stand up through our group experience, they're going to stand up in a real newsroom with real reporters. And so you get 6 stellar weeks of me working closely with you and a small group of other like-minded business owners. This is, high energy, big results. This is not a course in that regard. It's not me showing you how to do it and then turning you loose to go and doing. I'm there with you walking you through the step-by-step process, making sure that you press send, that you book interviews, and that I'm also going to give you in-depth media training. So the deer in headlights look, that fear of not sending in or what's going to come, that fear of success, all that's gone, dissipated. No more deer in headlights, no more sweaty palms. Those days are over. So you'll also have a detailed outline plan of how you got yourself booked, and you're going to keep that plan to repeat the process anytime you want media. I don't believe in going to publicity firms unless you're a mega corporation, a big business. I feel like business owners can do this themselves. And if you have a team that you want to train, that's all, you can do that as well by going through this program. So it is a group experience program. I call it the newsroom. It begins in just a couple of weeks. And we already have a great response to it right now. So it's launching very soon. The other thing, too, is that if you really want to test your hand, try your hand at getting your story ideas together, I have a freebie on my website. And if you go to storysellyourbrand.com and you want a little bit of help trying to figure out how to come up with story ideas to pitch, it is a free worksheet to help you problem-proof your pitch and help you create those story ideas that editors and producers really want. This is that something in your hand, that gift, that bird in the hand that's going to open the door for you to get more media, more television attention, print, and podcasts for your business. So I got the group program starting in just a couple of weeks. And then I also there's a freebie there at storysellyourbrand.com.
That is amazing. And I feel like it's so helpful. Thank you for that freebie and for that group program information. I feel like it's so helpful to, specifically talking about the freebie, to kind of get your thoughts out, have a place that somebody who's a professional has created that will help you work through that. So what to be sending people to have, like, as you call it, that gift in your hand when you come, because sometimes it's hard to even just start. So thank you so much, Gigi. Thank you for being here. And you guys, as always, I will always put everything that Gigi mentioned in the show notes. So click the links there. Find her at storysellyourbrand.com, but you can also just click the link in the show notes. Super easy to find. Thank you so much for being here, Gigi. It was my absolute pleasure.
Kenzie, thank you. I had a lot of fun.
I did as well. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.